Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on some day. I don't know what day it is. They tell me it's Friday. It might be Friday. It could be Monday. It could be Saturday for all I know. It's one of the days, and we're going to get through this hour, and then I guess take 2 more days off for the weekend. But glad you are here with us. If you're working, we'll get you to the finish line. If not, appreciate you being here. We got a lot to do. Preston Guy's going to be here in 15 minutes, TigerBait.com. He was in the Superdome last night covering Ole Miss and Georgia from the Big Easy. We'll talk to him about what's going on with LSU football. Saints got the Falcons coming up on Sunday. They'll close their season. We'll talk about that as well. Get you ready for Week 18 in the National Football League. Transfer portal is open. LSU's got a quarterback that's going to visit. We're going to talk about that as well. So there's lots and lots and lots to do. Appreciate you being here. Our Friday show is brought to you by Corks. Let's get it started the way we do every single day.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
All right, let's get this thing moving. I did something last night that I just very, very, very rarely do. I went to a game, and I didn't have any work obligation or the strongest of rooting interests. I was at the Sugar Bowl last night as a fan. Not a press pass, had a ticket, had a seat, had a couple of beers, watched the game. Yes, I wanted Georgia to beat Ole Miss. I don't want Ole Miss to win the national championship, and I would like Ole Miss's coaches to come to Baton Rouge where they are currently employed. But truth be told, it was nowhere near my emotional investment in an LSU game or a Chicago Cubs game, the games that just bring your stomach into knots. It was not like that last night. I just enjoyed the action. And I'll tell you this, there are a lot of things going on in collegiate athletics. You've got a situation where Nebraska and Oklahoma, the storied rivalry in college football, they don't play anymore. Notre Dame and USC said we're not going to play, and we just split up Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, and Stanford's in the ACC, and the conferences are completely mangled. And every single January, every football team in the country has 85 free agents. And you got players who didn't play it down for LSU this year announcing they're returning to LSU. All of that, to me, seems very silly. You've got players holding schools hostage for money. You've got LSU's coach, who was Ole Miss's coach, at LSU while Ole Miss is trying to win a national championship and winning the biggest game in their program's history, and they've got a mercenary staff that's splitting time between Oxford and Baton Rouge, and that is silly. And there's revenue sharing, and there's bickering in athletic departments about what sports should get what. Like, I'm perfectly willing to assess all of that and say that a lot of this is very, very silly. However, like last night was a breath of fresh air for me personally, because I didn't have to worry about the wins and losses. What do I tell y'all all the time when a change is made in collegiate athletics? Well, how does that affect LSU? Like, that's always where my mind goes. Last night didn't really affect LSU. Now, you could suggest the coaches, but if you just go to the game, like, it didn't really affect LSU. So I could just sit back and enjoy it. And y'all, it was freaking awesome in the Superdome last night. It was awesome. You could feel it when I walked in that place, how big the moment was. It was the biggest game that any of those powder blue-clad Ole Miss fans had ever attended in their lives. It was a monstrous moment for Georgia. Now, Ole Miss had 65% of the dome last night. I mean, they showed out. But Georgia was loud, and they were good, and Ole Miss's crowd was on fire. And their team was playing great. And it was back and forth. And the coaches were making decisions I didn't understand. And the players were making unbelievable plays. And Trinidad Chambliss is running all over the place like a crazy person making plays. And Kejuan Lacey is running. And George is scooping and scoring. And it was momentum shift and back and forth. And Ole Miss's kickers banging 50-yarders. It was incredible theater. And as I woke up this morning, I just kind of thought, like, yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that's going on in collegiate athletics is completely silly, at times unreasonable, and to maybe untenable at a certain extent. And you got the Supreme Court involved, and nobody's a commissioner, and Nick Saban's saying that, and the coaches are saying this, but the players are getting that, and analysts are saying this and that. But ultimately, what this comes down to is once they get between the lines of the football field, or once they get on the basketball court or the baseball diamond, or whatever the sport it is that you care about or that your team's playing, once they get between those lines, it's still freaking awesome. And last night when I was sitting in the Dome, I wasn't thinking about the transfer portal. A little bit with the guys that might come to Baton Rouge, but I wasn't really thinking about the transfer portal. I wasn't thinking about conference realignment. I wasn't thinking about the players' checking accounts. I wasn't thinking about storied rivalries that may be fractured. I wasn't thinking about coaches and players opting out of things. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was thinking as I sat in my seat in the Superdome, up in the 600 level with the cold beer in my hand, watching these two teams go at it in a monster moment in an incredible venue, I was just going, this is sick. And a lot of times I can't appreciate that when LSU's in the middle of it because I can't breathe. I can't feel my legs. Whether I'm in the student section like I was in 2007, 2008, whether I'm in the press box like I was in 2019, whether I'm a sophomore in high school in 2003 when they won it, like I can't appreciate the moment because I'm too deep in it. I wasn't too deep in it last night. I was just watching. And the display that I watched and the intensity that I watched and the jubilation coming from both sides back and forth, and I don't like anybody over there in powder blue, and I don't want anything good to happen to them. But that doesn't mean I couldn't look over there when that kick went through and watch people see something they had never seen before. And it was incredible. It was awesome. I'm glad I was there. It's not a night that I'll soon forget. I hope Ole Miss loses by 1,000 in their next game. 1,000 points. But it was so much fun being in there. And like, I don't mean this, honestly, I don't mean this to come off as complaining about my job at all. But sometimes when I'm working, like, it's just a different vibe than fans take in sports. Like, I've got to be on top of things. I got to take notes. I've got to write a story after things are over, and I can't tailgate, and I'm not sitting down with everybody in the stands. And like, it's just a different thing that I've worked my way into here, and I'm thrilled to do it. I love my job. The fact that I got to go to Omaha on Guarantee's dime this year and stay for 2 weeks and watch LSU win a national championship, like, that's incredible. But it is very different than going up there like I did 2 years ago with my dad and sitting in the stadium and eating a hot dog and cheering for LSU. Like, it's just it's a different thing that I do. And I got to step outside that last night, and I did not like the result. But, man, was it incredible theater to watch. I've got a couple like comments on the game. Like, my main point here to lead the show, like, this is an opening of Transfer Portal Day, and we're going to talk about the Transfer Portal for sure. And usually I would lead with that. I just felt compelled to kind of relay a first-hand account of what was going on in the Dome last night. I was down in the CBD for pregame at a bar. You had Ole Miss fans, you had Georgia fans, you're following the stadium, and it was just a cool energy and environment. And then as far as the game goes, I thought Pete Golding made a weird decision to chase points early and go for two. Like it's some sort of bad thing to have 13 points. I think 13 points is a fine number of points to have. Tries to go for two. That doesn't work. I thought Kirby Smart deciding to go with the fire drill fourth down call that really could have potentially cost him the game. Was just a weird, forced call. I just feel like if you're Georgia, you should feel like you're better than Ole Miss and line up and beat them and don't try to run the offense on there right at the end and then try to get it. That blew up in their face. I thought that Georgia did a poor job down there with 1 minute to go of managing the clock and then getting in the, obviously they didn't get in the end zone, of managing that situation. I thought it was inconceivable that Georgia would allow Ole Miss to get behind them for a 40-yard pass in that play. I thought Ole Miss's kicker was absolute nails to hammer through 250-plus yarders early in the game and then to drill the game winner. Whenever I'm at a game, what I do when a kick happens, I watch the kicker and the holder. They're usually the first in the stadium to tell you, sometimes the crowd, but usually I watch the kicker and the holder, and all three times on those three kicks, the 250-plus yarders in the first half and then the game winner, the holder came right out of his knee and dapped up the kick. I mean, right out of the kick, knew it was good. That was awesome. And then, this could be an LSU storyline. It could not be an LSU storyline. Trinidad Chambliss is that dude. I have watched him on TV all year. Watching him in person last night, the speed, the quickness, the elusiveness, the arm strength. Like, he is the package. And I think Lane Kiffin gets a ton of credit for developing that. I think Charlie Weiss gets a ton of credit for developing that. I think the football world choked on the evaluation of this guy for him to end up at D3 and then go into Temple, because he can really play, and he was so impressive. Kejuan Lacey was as well, no question about it. And you could just sense, being in the Dome last night, that was the biggest moment in Ole Miss's football life. You can certainly go back to the 50s, and they won a national championship, but nobody was there for that. And we were there last night. Ole Miss fans showed out last night. I don't think anybody but State fans was left in that state. It was just full of Ole Miss people in the quarter, in the CBD, and really in the Dome. And it was a huge moment for them. I was certainly hoping the Dogs would finish it. I'm surprised that they didn't, but Ole Miss straight earned it. I mean, you consider the fact that Georgia got 7 points on a scoop and score that is certainly to their credit that they forced a fumble and ran it back, but it's not something you can sustain. What Ole Miss did was certainly not a fluke. I mean, you look at the statistics from that game, and Ole Miss dominated the yardstick, dominated the action, really, and controlled things. I was looking at this morning. I mean, Ole Miss had 473 yards of offense in this game. Georgia had 343. And a lot of Ole Miss's damage was just done throwing it around, 362 yards. And I want Ole Miss to lose. I don't want this to finish out, and I don't want them to finish this deal. But it's hard to watch that and not think about what is coming to LSU. That offense is so good because Georgia's got NFL guys littered across that defense. They've got one of the best defensive minds, if not the best defensive mind in the sport on that sideline. And Ole Miss just did not care. Up and down the field, up and down the field, up and down the field, 20 points in the fourth quarter. Incredible stuff. But to me, the storyline for me personally was being in that Dome and seeing how awesome college sports can be, even if a lot of the things that are going on seem really silly. Cool stuff in the Dome last night between Ole Miss and Georgia, 39-34. The safety there at the end was the final. That's our opening drive. We got a lot of LSU and a lot of Saints to get to, but I wanted to start with that. So we'll step aside. We'll talk some LSU with Preston Guy next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Marucci. What a cool gym we've got here in Baton Rouge with Marucci. Just started up in the backyard shed, 2004. Now we're 22 years later, and you're talking about the official bat of Major League Baseball. It's an all-American success story. It really is, and it's right here in Baton Rouge. If you have not had an opportunity to go over to Marucci and see where they're churning out 1,200 bats a day, go see it. It's incredible. And y'all know I'm a Cubs fan. Anthony Rizzo, kind of the leader of the best chapter in the history of Cubs baseball, was one of the guys who jumped on the Marucci boat early. He's a huge supporter of theirs. Came to some LSU games with him. And that's cool for me, guy that was in there early and often, but it's just cool that this is here in Baton Rouge. And you can go check it out. Check out the campus tour. You can go in and take some swings in the batting cage. They've got those. So if you've got a youth baseball player, youth softball player in your house, take them over to Marucci. Check it out. It's Marucci Sports.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Friday. First show of 2026. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And I was walking around in the Superdome last night, and every Ole Miss fan I bumped into was telling me how much they like Preston Guy, how big a fan they are of all of his work. So it's our pleasure now to bring on Preston Guy from TigerBait.com here as we crank up 2026. Preston, I know you were in the Dome last night. How are you?
I'm doing good, and thanks for talking to those people. I haven't heard them say one mean thing. They're just a very classy group, very classy. It's been a lot of fun the last couple weeks.
I just spent 15 minutes talking about how much fun I had in the Dome last night, just watching as a fan and seeing the good of college football. It was an unbelievable environment in football game between two high-level teams. What was your biggest takeaway from being there last night?
Yeah, well, good for you. I'll tell you what, being in the media, it is refreshing sometimes. When you just get to go out and be a fan and have a cold beer and watch the game. My biggest takeaway was how important this was for Ole Miss and their fans. They showed up early, and they completely took over the Sugar Bowl. They were on the opposite side of the Superdome as the press box, and they were much louder than Georgia, with the fans on our side, right? Somehow Ole Miss was still louder. Biggest win in recent program history. Clearly Ole Miss was the better football team. Just a lot of screwy stuff was going against Ole Miss. The fumble, dropped passes, just a lot of just bad things happened, but they were clearly the better team. It'll be interesting. I think Miami's a good draw for them. We'll see. Things can get interesting, especially with this coaching staff that may or may not be there for the next round.
So what do we think about how LSU's implicated here with the staff? And then after that, I'll ask you kind of about the potential additions LSU could have on the field from some of the guys you watched last night.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, any guys LSU's targeting in the portal or might be interested in targeting, I guess is the proper way to phrase that. That gets put on the back burner now because these guys aren't going to enter the portal while they're gearing up for a semifinal game. Absolutely not. So that definitely has impact. Now, on the coaches, you figure coaches probably had to head back to Baton Rouge at some point today and start working the portal. Today's going to be a busy day, and really, the whole portal window is going to be very busy for them. So I'm also hearing on the Ole Miss side of things how having these 6 LSU coaches, on their sidelines is just untenable. It's unmanageable. So, it's very likely that they're going to have to make some other adjustments. I do know they brought on staff, recently hired one of the guys who worked with Charlie Weiss Jr. to call plays before he took over, taking all the play calling himself to come back. So they've already made some moves to be able to survive without that offensive staff, but we'll have to see how things play out.
All right, let's talk about LSU and what we've seen from portal entrants. Obviously, no one has committed to LSU. We're just a couple of hours into this thing. But as far as the folks that are heading out, what catches your eye?
It is a large number, I'll tell you that. I think it's 20 scholarship players. I'm trying not to count the walk-ons who've entered the portal because I just kind of, muddles things up. Kyle Parker is probably the biggest loss you've got. I'll say this, it's a lot of offensive linemen when you really needed offensive linemen, both from a quality and depth standpoint. So losing a guy like Tyree Adams, that stings because he's a guy who showed promise at left tackle, not a guy who was perfect, because let's be honest, nobody on this offensive line is close to perfect. But more so than that, it looks like they're doing a good job keeping the key core pieces involved. When we're talking about the 2 biggest losses being Kyle Parker and Tyree Adams, you lost 20 guys, but, it's not really a lofty group, a costly group. And, they've done a good job. Dominic McKinley was a good piece to bring back. Harlem Berry, I think that one is absolutely colossal. DJ Pickett coming back. I think you're doing a good job identifying the ones who are impact players and keeping them around. But you best believe they are going to have to get, with 20 players going out, plus, 12 or so players leaving for the NFL. You're going to have to go out and get about 30-some-odd players.
Yeah, it's going to be wild to watch, and we'll see how that all shakes out. Whit Weeks announced that he's going to come back and play for LSU next year. How big a deal is that?
Oh, that's huge. Anytime a guy's got a decision between the transfer portal, the NFL, or coming back, you're talking about a guy who could be playing in the NFL next year, very legitimately on the field playing in the NFL. That's a big deal. A lot of things fell in LSU's, place to make that happen. Number one, he didn't have as an explosive, complete campaign this year as it was looking like he was going to when the year was beginning. He got hurt and slowed him down. So, maybe his draft stock took a hit. Maybe he was going to work his way up into being a first or second round pick, and he was probably looking more like a third or fourth round pick. Secondly, Lane Kiffin coming back. It's no secret that he is dating Lane Kiffin's daughter, and that is probably a unique experience that he gets to come play for, his girlfriend's dad. Also a unique experience in that, because he came here, he has a lot of NIL funds to work with. That probably helps the decision. And I've always said that guys like this is where NIL helps, because a lot of times in the past, guys are like, well, my stock dropped. I'm a third, fourth, or fifth round grade, but, maybe I could have a strong combine and make some money. But, even the league minimum is much more than zero. Well, nowadays colleges can blow away that league minimum. It's actually a lot smarter to be a college star in the SEC than it is to go be, a backup on the roster making league minimum in the NFL nowadays.
There's a report on ESPN. Pete Thamel tweeted earlier today that Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati is going to visit Texas Tech today on Friday, and then he'll continue on to Baton Rouge at some point this weekend. Your thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, that's a huge guy. He is an absolute stud for Cincinnati. He fits Lane Kiffin's offense like a glove, right? So, from what I've heard, he may even be higher on their board than Trinidad Chambliss, right? And we all saw how good he was last night. That would be a massive pickup for LSU. And his name alone, he's the kind of player where you're trying to figure out how many games is LSU going to win. Well, just adding him to the mix means, hey, if you surround him with guys, you might be a contender, because that's LSU's sole biggest problem right now is you literally don't have a quarterback you can go out there and contend with, right? And probably second to that, 1A, 1B is offensive line. He's also a very mobile guy who can move around and kind of help for some of your O-line flaws. But if just his name alone would be just so big for this class.
What do you expect this weekend? Do you expect a flurry of commitments? Is it just visit season? What are you hearing on what we're looking at over the next 48 hours?
I'm actually a little surprised it's been as slow as it's been this morning in terms of rolling in the news. I'm almost a little wondering, are they slow rolling a lot of this stuff intentionally so that, you're not going to get a tampering allegation? Because we're starting to hear coaches adjust their media talk to kind of be a little more careful about that. We heard that in the bowl game with Lane Kiffin saying, I don't know if I can even talk about him without getting accused of tampering, So I think that we all know it's obviously going on, right? Us in the media, we can recklessly talk about things, but let's say you have a deal already lined up with a guy. It's like, all right, let's give it 72 hours. That's what I wonder is going on. I'm just curious if it's going on. It seems like it. But I would expect some fireworks to go off this weekend, particularly with guys who might have already had a familiar relationship, guys who were either recruited by LSU in the past, guys who either played for LSU in the past, thinking like guys like Lance Hurd, right? Guys who don't necessarily need to feel out what is LSU. What is it all about? Who already know? Like, you have a call with the coach and you see the money and it's like, all right, that's what I need to know, right? I would say this weekend, and then Monday is when I would guess things are really going to fire up in a big way.
We shall see. Hope you enjoyed the football last night in the Dome. Have a great weekend. We'll talk next week.
I sure did. I'll see you next week.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, with us every single Friday. I want to remind you about our friends at Fabry Chevrolet GMC on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Under new ownership as of October 1st, the Fabry family, I got that point there, was in St. Francisville for Chevrolet GMC. Got an incredible inventory of new as well as pre-owned vehicles there in St. Francisville. You can check out the entire inventory online. It's there at FabryChevrolet.com. That's F-A-B-R-E. FabryChevrolet.com, or make that short drive up to St. Francisville. The Fabry family's been in this market for 35 years. You know what you're going to get when you deal with that family. You're going to get incredible customer service. You're going to get an unbelievable inventory. So if you're looking for a Chevy Silverado on the truck side, maybe a Tahoe or a Suburban on the SUV side, they got you covered. On the GMC side, hey, Sierras, Yukons, Denali's, you name it, they've got it there on the lot in St. Francisville. Make the short drive up there or check them out online at FabryChevrolet.com. Still plenty to do here over the next 90 minutes on the Hunt Palmer Show. We got to talk Saints and Falcons. Chris Olave with a bit of a scare here this week. We'll talk about that as we move forward. I want to talk about LSU and Texas A&M. They'll open conference play on the hardwood tomorrow in College Station. A&M was a very fascinating team for me to take a look at. I've got a preview up at louisianasports.net for free right now if you want to check that out. Got to get you ready for the NFL weekend. We'll do that coming up next. And got to talk LSU in the transfer portal and what we expect this weekend. We'll do plenty of that as we move forward. Don't go anywhere. It's a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com is that website. Go hit some golf balls this weekend. Weather might not be great tonight. Looks like we got some weather coming in, but that doesn't mean you can't play golf because you just go to Swing Easy Golf Club. It's inside. You get a private bay on the golf simulator, which I find to be really fun. I've told you all this story, but when I did the challenge over there and hit those 600 shots, the technology was incredible. If you've never played on a simulator before, you're like, is it really real golf? Well, it's not the same exactly, but it's pretty damn close. You go over there, it can tell based on the spin if your ball's going to spin back with a wedge. I was playing with the Titleist Pro V1, and it was spinning back on the green. I was playing with a beat-up Strixon that was old and didn't spin as much, and it would roll out. And so you can hit chips and putts and drives and play courses like Pebble Beach right there at Swing Easy Golf Club, or you can turn on the driving range session and just hit some balls and work on your game. They got cold beer, they got cold seltzers, they got wine for you as well. Bring some friends or hang out by yourself. Either way, it's Swing Easy Golf Club on Segan at Perkins. They're online at swingeasygcbr.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Government between Foster and Jefferson. Looking for a po' boy on this Friday? Swing on by Corks. They get you great shrimp po' boy overstuffed with those jumbo Gulf shrimp, crispy shoestring fries. Got all the sauces that you might need as well. Your coleslaw, honey butter rolls. They got your beignet bites too. Go see them if you're looking to feed the family, watch some football over the weekend. Corks can help you out with catering orders as well. Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. All right, we're going to talk about the Saints and the Falcons in our next segment. Scary week for Chris Olave. He's not going to play on Sunday, so his season is done. We'll see what Tyler Shuck can do without him. He's leaned on Olave pretty heavily, so we'll discuss that coming up here in about 15 minutes. And I want to talk about what we saw in the Rose Bowl yesterday coming up here in about 5 or 6 minutes. But first, it's time for Week 18 in the National Football League. All right, bottom of the barrel, Tier 4, stuff that doesn't really matter. We start with Washington and Philadelphia. 11 potential starters are going to be out of this game for Washington. Jalen Hurts also going to sit for Philadelphia. They don't have anything to play for, so not much of interest there in the city of brotherly love. Browns and Bengals, Myles Garrett has something to play for. 1 sack away from setting the NFL's single-season sack record. He sacked Joe Burrow a lot, 12 times in their careers. If he gets one more, he will be the record holder there. Chiefs and Raiders, nothing at stake in this one. Neither team will make the playoffs. Is it Travis Kelce's final game in the NFL? I think that's probably likely. The Chiefs, if you're looking to put some money down, 0-7 against the spread as favorites in their last 7 tries. They're a favorite without Mahomes in the game against the Raiders coming up this weekend. Packers are at the Vikings. Nothing's at stakes here. Justin Jefferson would like to get 53 yards. If he gets that, he'll have 1,000 yards for the 5th straight season. He's one of the best players in the NFL. Has not had an awesome year statistically this year. It hurts when you don't have a very good quarterback, so we'll see if Jets can get 53 yards. Up to Tier 3, not the bottom of the barrel, but getting close to it. Cowboys are at the Giants. Dak Prescott, he leads the NFL in passing right now. Could he finish there? If he does, he'd be the first Dallas Cowboys quarterback to ever lead the NFL in passing. Aikman never did it. Romo never did it. Staubach never did it. Could be Dak Prescott if he gets it done this weekend. The Titans are at the Jags. The Jaguars win the South with a W. They can get the top seed with a win and losses by New England and Denver. That's not very likely. They should get a win over the Titans coming up here. The Colts are at the Texans. Riley Leonard's going to play quarterback for the Colts. They're going to sit Phillip Rivers down. The Texans are going to play their guys. They win the AFC South if they win and Jacksonville loses to the Titans. So we'll see what happens there in the AFC South. Jets are at the Bills. Probably the last game at Highmark Stadium. It opened in 1973. The Bills will move into their new stadium next year. They could theoretically get a home playoff game, but as a wild card, it's very, very unlikely. So probably the last game at Highmark Stadium there in Orchard Park. Cardinals are at the Rams. Nothing at stake here. The Rams looking to get the 5 seed or the 6 seed. That's all the intrigue I've got for you on that one. And the Cardinals putting the Kyler Murray era very likely in their rearview mirror after this one. Dolphins and Patriots. New England needs a W with a W and a Denver loss to clinch the top seed. Quinn Ewer is going to start for the Miami Dolphins. All right, Tier 2. Got 3 games here that are pretty big. The Buccaneers are hosting the Panthers. The Buccaneers have lost 7 of 8. 7 of 8. And they can still make the playoffs. That can't have ever happened. They didn't win a game in December. They haven't won a game since November the 30th. How many playoff teams went 0 for December? Can't be a lot. We'll see if the Bucs can get that done hosting the Panthers. Lions are at the Bears. The Bears get the 2 seed if they win this game. The Lions are out. They will play their full complement of players. Then you got the Chargers at the Broncos. If the LA Chargers win this game at Denver, they go unbeaten against the AFC West for the first time in their history. The Broncos have history of their own that they're going to make potentially this weekend. They lead the NFL in sacks, and they have allowed the fewest sacks in the NFL. No one has ever done that since sacks became a statistic in the 60s. Sean Payton kind of knows what he's doing there in Denver. All right, Tier 1, 2 games that are the best of the week in my estimation. Seattle is at San Francisco. The winner gets the 1 seed. The 49ers defense last in the NFL in sacks and pressure rate. It's beyond my comprehension that a team could get the 1 seed in a conference with the worst pass rush in the NFL. That's a weird statistical anomaly there. They'll be hosting Seattle coming up this weekend. And then the Sunday night game, Ravens at the Steelers. Pretty simple. Win, you're in. Huge, huge stakes between 2 teams that do not like each other very much. Are there Steelers fans that might want to lose this game and potentially move on from Mike Tomlin?
There definitely are out there.
I think they're out there. We'll see. Ravens and Steelers, Sunday Night Football win, and you're in. Fired up for the weekend, Jordan?
Oh, I'm fired up, man. The NFC South is just a complete disaster, and I love it so much. That's my Tier 1, both of those games.
I'm not going to do the research. I'll just be blunt. I'm not going to do the research.
Yes.
There can't be another playoff team that did not win a game in December. That can't have ever happened before.
I've never heard of that ever. I've never heard of that.
Their last win was November 30th. They could win on January the 3rd, 4th. That's bizarre, but that's where the Bucs are. Do you have any confidence the Bucs will get it done against the Panthers? Who are you pulling for in that game, by the way?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, so if the Bucs win, then that means the Saints and Falcons game matters, right? Or it's weird.
I can't keep up.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's such a weird dynamic that I love it so much because it just shows you exactly what the NFC South is. The fact that their game could not matter, and then it goes down to who if the Saints win, I think it's like the Saints win, the Bucs get in, or if the Falcons win, then the Panthers get in. Like, that's what this NFC South really matters. It matters about 2 opposite teams playing each other to decide the division because everybody is terrible.
I don't know that if you would have told me on Labor Day that the Lions and Bears would play in Week 18 and the 2 seed would be on the line for one and the other was not going to make the playoffs, that I would have had the Bears getting the 2 seed and the Lions being out of the playoffs. Just not quite able to rekindle the magic post Ben Johnson and post Aaron Glenn. I don't think Kelvin Shepard did a bad job this year, but they had a ton of injuries, and it's just hard. It's just hard to be good every year. It really is difficult to be good. And I'm curious to see what happens in that Chargers-Broncos game as well. Those 2 teams are, I believe, Super Bowl threats at this point, and they both won double-digit games. And I think it's interesting the Chargers could win the West for the first time, could sweep the West for the first time in their history. So that's a look at the NFL. Briefly, before we get to Saints and Falcons, I do want to touch on some of what we saw yesterday in the college football playoff. I'm going to be pretty honest about this as well. I'm supposed to research, inform, mildly entertain, have a good handle on college football to talk about it with you all. I have no clue, none, how Indiana is doing this. They are a freight train, and I don't know who any of their players are. They lost their best pass rusher, couldn't play. They beat Bama by, let me check my notes here, 1,000,000 points. I know Bama's got pros.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to Taylor Sharp out there in the hallway. He was telling me about Indiana's corners. One of them's like 5'9", $160.
Yeah, Pons.
Just showing up, locking dudes down. Bama's supposed to have the best wide receiver duo in the country. Oh, no, wait, Ohio State does? Well, they beat both of them. Who cares?
Yeah.
Went to Eugene, beat them. How is Kurt Signetti doing this? He's revolutionized football or something. He's got to be a witch. He's got to be a witch.
Hey, Hunt, it's funny you say that where you're like, you don't know who none of these guys are because it's JMU's roster. He's out there playing with JMU's roster a couple years ago. They're a bunch of JMU guys.
I'm living in a world where Ferris State's quarterback is crushing Kirby Smart, and James Madison's roster is boat racing Alabama in the Rose Bowl. What am I supposed to do with that? I'm supposed to give some sort of educated opinion on that? I'm not educated on that. I don't understand how Indiana is that much better than everyone else.
Hunt, you know what's even crazy? If you would have came maybe not even less than 5 years ago and been like, there's going to be a time where Indiana is going to knock out Alabama cold in the Rose Bowl. Indiana football. Now, we're not talking basketball. We're talking Indiana football. Just 5 years ago, you would be like, you're out of your mind.
If they play like that, nobody can stay on the field with them. It's
not even
Indiana.
Close. Yeah. Mendoza, the Heisman. And you know what? I have my doubts about him. I have my doubts about Mendoza. He shut me completely
T-Bob had a great take on Mendoza. He's like the nicest dude ever. He gets in the interview. He's like, oh, yeah, we're just having a great day.
The Hoggies. The Hoggies.
He's just a nice guy. There's like no edge whatsoever. You got Diego Pavi over here, who's just a jerk all the time. And then you got Mendoza over here who's like, oh, well, we're just going to go out there and play. I'm so happy to be out here with these guys. What we just played Bama. What's the score? Like 1,000-3?
And he's just giving praise like, yeah, you know, we came here as a team. The Hoggies is up front. And he's just so enthusiastic.
Such an aw shucks guy.
Yeah.
Beating Bama by a million. There will come a day before I'm gone where LSU is going to do that to Alabama one day. And that day, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'm looking forward to that day. Indiana sure got it there. I mean, just non-competitive football game. We're at the Hyatt across the street from the Dome. Tons of Ole Miss fans in there, some Georgia fans, and like we're reacting to this. Like everyone's just looking around like, what is going on? Another touchdown? I was walking across the street to the Dome, and I pulled it up. There's another touchdown.
Another one.
Just how many points does Bama have? 3. Yeah. They got 3.
And look, at first, when Bama, they hit Mendoza at first. I think they got a 3-and-out on the first one. Came and hit him. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's how it's going to be all game. Like, they're going to rattle him. We're going to see Mendoza unrattled. This dude came out there, and I'm talking dots. And I ain't gonna lie, Hunt, we're sitting in a situation where it's like there is no time limit to turning around a program no more. No. India, he turned around in 2 years. Just like that. Oh, yeah. Well, because last year they was pretty good, but they got exposed.
Here's this. And look, credit to me. I'm a genius, obviously. Told y'all, whenever Bama loses, and they were going to lose at some point, I didn't know exactly when they're going to lose. It's because they can't run the ball. Yesterday, 17 carries for 23 yards.
Ooh.
17 carries for 23 yards. Soft football team. Soft football team. Talented. Soft. I was talking to a Bama fan in the Hyatt. He was sitting there. It's like, I'm a fish out of water here. He's watching, and they're just getting blasted. And I was like, what do you think about your coach? He was like, I think he's a good coach. I said, I think he's a good coach too. But I'm just telling you, like, I'm in Baton Rouge. He's beaten LSU twice. I'm not really scared of him. Like, I don't fear that Kalen DeBoer is going to turn Alabama back into a freight train. I think they'll be good. I think they'll win 10. I think might win 11 here. They might win 8 here. But it's just going to be a normal, good football team. I think that's what you got. And they were outclassed out west yesterday. Let's come back and pick Saints-Falcons. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing. It is 2026. That means I got good news for you about Lifetime Roofing. They are so proud to offer a lifetime workmanship warranty. Go to the website, check them out, lifetimeroofingla.com, and ask them about that lifetime workmanship warranty. And if you're concerned about financing, they've got it. They've got 0% for 18 months. Even if you want to finance your deductible, if you've got a sizable deductible, there's a weather event, and you're looking at 2%, something like that, you want to finance that, you can do it. They're happy to work for you. This is a company born right here in South Louisiana with people from South Louisiana that care about the state of Louisiana. They care about the people in our state. And they understand, like, we have some tough times with roofing. Got storms that blow through, and people need help. Lifetime Roofing is here to help. So if you're looking for a roofer that can give you a lifetime workmanship warranty, Lifetime Roofing. If you're looking for financing, whether it's a whole roof or deductible, Lifetime Roofing. Go check them out online. LifetimeRoofingLA.com. LifetimeRoofingLA.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
All right, let's wrap up hour number 1 here. Our Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Saints and Falcons from the ATL, noon kickoff on Fox Sunday, season finale for both of these teams. Neither will be making the playoffs. I saw this. Cam Jordan had a little fun with this rivalry earlier this week. Said trash Atlanta, can't Atlanta, ain't Atlanta, all about the same, 28-3. That's a man who knows how to play to his audience.
Hey, man, Cam Jordan is an A-plus troll. I don't know who trolls more, him or Kiffin. Well, not Kiffin.
So, and it comes down to pride here. The Saints have played great football. The Saints have been much better over the last month than they were previously, and most of that is credit to the way that Tyler Shuck has played. He gets a new challenge this week because we know correctly that they have leaned on Chris Olave extremely hard over the last month. He's the only proven wide receiver they got. Devon Bailey goes out, so you're looking at a group of Kevin Austin and Mason Tipton. And
Mason Tipton's out too this week.
He's not playing, but I mean, you've got guys out there the last month outside of Olave that you never heard of, so they're throwing to Olave a lot. Well, got the blood clot situation. Sounds like they've caught that early enough, and hopefully everything's on the up and up here as you move into the offseason, but they won't have him on Sunday. So what do you got? Because I cannot trust the Saints to run the ball. Like, they tried and did a little bit last week. And so you're seeing maybe the emergence of some ground game, but I can't trust that based on a couple runs from last week by a guy that was on the street, essentially. You go get Estime from the Broncos, and you don't have Kamara, you plug him in there. And so we'll see. I just don't trust the Saints to run the ball very well. The question is what defense shows up. Because if it's the defense that had been there before last week, you're talking about a team that's holding teams about 16 points per game, and Brandon Staley's group have been great. Last week it wasn't as good, and the offense had to bail them out. With a suspect running game and no Olave, is the offense ready to bail you out against this Atlanta team? And the other thing is the Saints need to solve Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is not really that good against anybody else, and the Saints can't seem to figure him out. I was so disheartened the way the Saints came out of that bye week when Atlanta came to the Dome. Like, it felt like that was going to be a spot against your rival off the bye week. You were going to come out humming, and they just fell flat. And Atlanta just took it to them that day in the Dome. Can you come out and throw a first punch? How about a drive in the first quarter? They just haven't. They've been great in the second half, great in the fourth quarter, and that's winning time, and it's paying off. But I'd like to maybe play from ahead. Play from a spot that's advantageous. Find some early rhythm. Hadn't been able to do that. And Bijan Robinson on the other side is a problem. And the Saints have got to get him corralled. He needs 255 scrimmage yards to set the single-season record. I don't know that is reachable. He'd have to go for $170 on the ground and then 85 more through the air, something like that. That's a tall ask. But he'll be getting the ball early and often in this game, and you've got to figure out a way to stop him. It's interesting where the Saints are, and I'll tell you this, I'm not trying to throw cold water on this. I'm really not. But I do want to zoom out. You got this ball of hatred. Cam Jordan's throwing can't Atlanta, 28-3 at him. Like, I get it. That's there. If you can zoom out a little bit, I'm just not going to be that mad if the Saints get a fourth place schedule next year. It's not. I think it's reasonable to sit here and suggest the Saints can be a playoff team next year. Is it a betting probability? Probably not. But it's a reasonable discussion to have based on their play the last month. If you're going to let me go play the Giants, if you're going to let me play the Raiders, if you're going to let me play the Browns, Jets, teams like that on a fourth place schedule, like that sounds better than playing Washington if Jaden's healthy. Sounds better than playing some of these third, and you were looking at second place potentially. So here's my take on it. If you're a Saints fan, you despise Atlanta. You want Shuck to keep humming. You want the confidence to keep growing. You want 5 wins in a row going into the offseason. I got you. That's awesome. That's okay. It's a great way to think. And approach the game that way. Put the jersey on one more time. Crack that morning beer, whatever the case may be. And hope you go out there and kick Atlanta's tail. Just an if, not cold water, just an if, Atlanta does win the game. Not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. The question is, what Saints team is going to come out there and play? At this point, you've got a month of good football, and I believe you've got a quarterback who is playing really well. And I think he's going to play well on Sunday. And I think the Saints are going to win. I think the defense is going to step up. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be awesome. Get a handle on Bijan Robinson. They'll figure something out at wide receiver. Whatever. Come on back, Mason Tipton. Get Juwan Johnson back involved in the passing game. I trust Shuck at this point. I'll take Shuck. I'll take the Saints to win the game. I'll take them to win it 27-24 late. Late field goal, late touchdown, late score. Saints win 27-24. That's my pick for the win. That'll be 5 in a row to end the season. But again, if they don't win, not the end of the world. How are we feeling, Jordan? We got about 50 seconds.
Like you said, it's not the end of the world, but I need that.
Yeah.
and not only do I need it, let's go ahead and wrap up Rookie of the Year. What more can you say if he goes there and wins with a bunch of insurance salesmen and me playing receiver on Sunday? So, Shuck, go ahead, wrap up Rookie of the Year. That's all I want.
We'll see it. Fourth place schedule if you lose.
It's cool. Like I said, I'm in a win-win situation.
Yeah, celebrate at 3:30 no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what.
Took it to the Falcons. Awesome. Got a fourth place
Just
schedule.
don't get blown out. That's it. Just don't get blown out.
Okay. All right. That's it for Saints and Falcons coming up noon on Sunday. That's it for hour number 1. Moving fast. Friday show is brought to you by Corks. We got LSU basketball in the second hour. But to start the second hour, LSU's got a quarterback that's coming in to visit this weekend. Who is it? Does it make sense? I'll talk about it. I'm going to pause for national headlines. Be back with our final hour of the week. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Love telling you about my friends over at Auctioner. Had our conversations all year long with Dr. Jeremy Burnham over at Auctioner and certainly have enjoyed those, and they'll continue. We'll talk to him coming up on Monday. But we're going to tell you about Auctioner daily now. And now that you're in a new year and you want to crank up for an alcohol-free challenge, you can do that with the folks over at Auctioner. It's not necessarily about giving anything up forever. It's about seeing how your body responds. If you take a break, let yourself recharge. You can sign up, get access to pre- and post-challenge metrics like body composition, blood pressure, optional labs, and you can see the changes your body will make over the course of 40 days. So registration's open. You can go and check all of that out. Look, it's a challenge and an opportunity to join in with people to meet a common goal if you want to get 2026 started a little bit different way, but not sure where to start. We'll do it with my friends over at Auctioner. I'm telling you about them every single day. Check them out online, alcoholfreefor40.com.